Artifact challenges let loose rivers of salt, and Legion assaults are here, and just a couple days later, they don't matter anymore. Hey, it's Sol, bringing you the World of Warcraft. It's April 7th, 2017, and this is Warcraft Weekly, a weekly show where I take some of my favorite news from Warcraft and spit it back at you. So how's your week been? And speaking of that, I held a contest just the other week where I chose a random comment, and whoever won or whoever I chose would get enough gold to buy a WoW token. I chose Zubo, and unfortunately he or she didn't get back to me. So instead of just choosing another winner from that, I decided to just kind of roll that over to here, and I'm going to ask you folks again, how was your week? What I'm going to do once again is choose a random comment out of all the comments that are in this video, and it really doesn't matter if you told me how your week was. Just say hi, drop a line, say what's up, whatever. And from that, I'm going to choose one person, and they're going to get a whole lot of gold to buy a WoW token. Now, of course, this is going to be available only for US realms, for the US region. Sorry, everyone else. But I'd love to see a winner who will actually take a reward. But more importantly, I'd love to know how your week was. Let me know in a comment below. As for my week, this is what I did real quick. I shared some of my patch 7.2 experiences, starting with the very horrific tank artifact challenge. Dude, that shit's hard. And I know that a lot of folks are struggling with it, but hey, I shared my experience with it. Feel free to entertain yourself with that. I also showcased Legion assaults for the people that didn't get a chance to experience them yet. I shared my thoughts in another channel blog and just asked a couple questions about what I can do to improve this channel a little bit more. And I finally finished the tanking guides from a prop Paladin perspective. So Elisande Gul'dan guides are out, along with footage of the entire fight, so you can enjoy that stuff too. Also did a quick update on Casual Gold to let you folks know how my experimental tune is doing. I also hosted my infamous guild race, where I take a bunch of suckers or guildies, and I had them race from one endpoint to another again. For the few of you who actually watch this on stream, I know it wasn't super entertaining, but hopefully I can get a good cut together and I'll be able to show some highlights for everyone else. And finally, as we speak, a 5th PoWCcast is going up detailing pretty much everything that my guild experienced in the Nighthold raid. Basically, it's a perspective from a heroic standpoint. I know it's not as impressive as like one that comes from Mythic Raiders, but I think that contributing our input from a heroic perspective is should be pretty useful, maybe kind of entertaining for some folks. This thing is long, and just like every other PoWCcast, it's getting longer and longer and longer. So strap in and have a listen. You're gonna be here for a while. I had a busy ass week, so how was yours? So the Slowpoke Content is coming out of 7.2, and during this week we were able to experience the first of the buildings that was completed, the Mage Tower, as well as Legion Assault objectives. Players were either horrified or greatly entertained by the challenge that came out of the artifact challenges that were included with the Mage Tower. Now, aside from the inherent difficulty that's supposed to come from these challenges, there was a lot of criticism in part of players with regards to just kind of the disparity or the lack of balance between all the different specs and classes. Now, especially for tanks, and of course I'm having kind of a bias here, it does feel like that there was a really big imbalance between protection paladins and everyone else, given that the very first phase of the encounter had almost twice the amount of HP as the other tanks. But I'll push the salt aside. I am being salty about it, I admit it. And let's just kind of look at what these challenges are. It's just straight up imbalanced. There is there's a very weak parity when it comes to completing these challenges, depending on the 30 some odd specs that exist in the World of Warcraft. Players have a big critique about the lack of balance and parity between all these classes because of course they want to complete these objectives as soon as possible. But the fact that some classes or specs have a much easier time than others, it leads to that whole salty feeling. This of course comes from the fact that there are only so many artifact challenges that were created. Blizzard only has really only has the bandwidth to do so much, right? I don't think it's entirely fair to demand that Blizzard creates a single challenge, even though we'd love to. Of course, if there were unlimited resources on the side of Blizzard, then yeah, of course we would want things our way, but you can't make a challenge for all 36 specs within the scope of a patch. I mean, if this was something that was designed within the expansion, and if they had thought this further along or further ahead and created these artifact challenges while they were developing the expansion itself, okay, maybe that would make a bit more sense. Since they probably didn't though, they of course had to work within reason, and this is what we've got. Of course, there's the other criticism that came the other week when they said that, hey, these artifact challenges, they're going to be based, they're not going to be scalable at all. It's not going to be based on like item level scaling or level scaling or anything like that. It's just, you do it and it gets a little bit easier over time as you get more gear. In my opinion though, with trying to have this scaled as if it was like a challenge mode or proving grounds, I don't think that would have worked either. This also did weird things with itemization and approaching this from a gear standpoint. I mean, you would find folks trying to farm for gear that just had a bunch of stock, for example, right? You would find people that were farming for a bunch of gear with like sockets or having a certain kind of stat in order to maximize whatever the level scaling or whatever the item level scaling is going to be. And that still doesn't quite solve the problem of the fact that there are only so many artifact challenges that are available. You would need to kind of change the scaling effect for each and every spec and class, and well, to be honest, that's a big pain in the butt. I can see the response now with critics saying, well, shoot, it's Blizzard. They're a multi-billion-dollar company. They should be able to have the time and resources to do the whole balancing act. In my opinion, though, like Blizzard does have to choose their battles, and in this case, this was the easiest and cleanest solution for them. And while it isn't perfect at all, if we went with a whole scaling route, then we would have to, Blizzard would have to keep revisiting this over and over again with like each hotfix or patch revision or something like that in order to make sure that the balance of completing these challenges is within parity at all times. And balancing that between like 30 some odd specs, between all the changes that's going to happen and everything, that's a bit overwhelming. For me, despite me hating, it's a hard challenge, but I like it. I'm going to get better. I'm going to start using, the next time we see the Mage Tower, I'm going to better utilize my kits. I'm going to have better gear. Heck, within the time frame of the Mage Tower being up, I did get better gear. I just stopped trying to do the challenge. But things are going to get better. Everyone's going to get better, hopefully. And, everyone who really puts in their effort to dedicate themselves to their class and spec, they're gonna get their challenge skin. This week, Legion assaults began in all regions, and well, players were pissed again. For those who don't know, Legion assaults occur kind of randomly. They occur at least once a day, or at least according to a blue post, there are 4 Legion assaults that will occur within the span of 3 days or 72 hours, or in other words, 33% of the time there is a Legion there is a Legion assaults objective up. The reason why people were pissed is because these objectives, they happened pretty early in the basically in the morning, when the majority of folks who do like 9 to 5 kinds of shifts at work, they weren't available to do it. Critics were up in arms about this, despite Blizzard trying to quell the situation and trying to reassure players that, hey, you know what, the times that these assault objectives are going to appear, like we said, they're random. They're going to appear at different times. Sometimes it's going to be during the morning, sometimes it's going to be during the evening, and the past couple objectives have been very late at night, or like straight up, I think one had happened like just after midnight or so. The other part of this is that these assault objectives are going to occur. Well, they're going to occur at least until 7.3, perhaps even towards the end of Legion, because when you think about it, I'll get to this later, but let's pretend that the Legion Assault objective was still part of the meta for Pathfinder Part 2. Imagine if 7.3 came and the Legion Assault objective suddenly stopped for whatever reason. How are new players supposed to get Legion Pathfinder Part 2 at all, right? But despite that, players were still mad, and it really just comes down to 2 things. One is that even though the assault objectives are going to just kind of occur perpetually, until like whenever, they're still time limited. And whenever there's a time limited anything, there's a lot of people that are going to feel disenfranchised because for whatever reason, their schedule just doesn't allow them to participate. I admit that I was a little bit triggered or offended or whatever when people were presenting the argument that the assault objectives, they should be at a better time because right now the assault objectives are only for people who don't have jobs. And I'm like, come on, dude. I mean, okay, yeah, There are people who don't have jobs, sure. But of course, there are people who have a night job, or they work from home, or they're a stay-at-home parent, or they're retired, or they're a student who doesn't have night classes, or they live offshore but they play on US realms anyway, or even though you do work, you can still get on WoW anyway because fuck it, I can still get on WoW. But they're not wrong with their feelings. It's totally understandable. I get that. I'm not gonna fight that. I'm just saying that there's more, there's more people than just like the 9-to-5 folks. And this is nothing new, this whole time limited thing. If you think about, kind of a couple years back, or even now still, whenever there are weekly maintenances, and sometimes they would be last hours and hours long, there were people on like let's say Oceanic Realms, like, hey, this is on our time, this is our prime time. Why are you doing your maintenance, now? This really sucks. So, like I said, when it comes to these time limited things, there's going to be people that are screwed no matter what, and that is largely why Blizzard had taken the action with what they did and just remove this whole assault objective thing from the meta in order to unlock Pathfinder Part 2, or Pathfinder 1.5 as I call it. If you think about only Tuesday and Wednesday, when the assault objectives only occurred during like the morning hours, and of course people were pissed, blah blah blah, 9 to 5, a lot of folks can get behind that sentiment. I myself did. But the following days, when they were at a very different time, when a lot of people are probably asleep, of course those folks are going to be happy about it. Like, hey, I'm an all-nighter or whatever. I can do this. But a lot of people that are asleep, they're like, hey, we got screwed. We didn't even see that it was up at all. Damn. We can at least say that mathematically, okay, over time, everyone's going to be okay. Everyone's going to be covered eventually. But now we get to the other problem at the center of this. Completing, up till now, completing the assault objectives equated to unlocking flight. There was a goal. And because there's a goal, especially because it's flight, players are especially impatient about this. People want to fly. People wanted to fly yesterday. They wanted to fly day one of Legion if they could get away with it. I'm not going to debate the merits of flight or anything like that, but I am a little concerned about the growing impatience in part of players. On the flip side though, I am glad that Blizzard handled the situation the way they did, even though it was only within 2 days of assault objectives starting. Blizzard did basically lower the bar on Pathfinder Part 1.5. I mean, all we have to do now is complete Part 1, explore the whole Broken Shore, and get to Revered. Before 7.2 launch, we had to complete the entire Legion Fall campaign, which would have taken the entire 11-week duration. We would have needed to get to Exalted Reputation, and now getting to Exalted is the only, I believe, the only point with getting to Exalted Rep with Legion Fall, with the Legion Fall people, is to get to your class mount, and of course the recent removal of completing all the assault objectives, which in my opinion is like the easiest out of all of them. It's just a matter of, I guess it is a matter of luck or RNG, if I want to trigger you guys with a word. It's just a matter of luck or just kind of waiting for it to be available. But with the campaign no longer being required and the reputation bar being lowered, it's just a matter of luck or being available to complete those assault objectives. And I admit that it's a little bit, I guess clunky is the word, or it's a little bit random. It is what it is, and for a lot of folks that doesn't feel good for all the reasons that I stated earlier. As for how they could have handled it differently though, I don't think there is. I mean, you can't really extend the time that the assault objectives take place, because other people have already presented the counter argument that when assault objectives occur, pretty much the entire zone is disabled aside from completing these objectives. For alts or newer players, because yeah, newer players do exist, it is kind of jarring to just kind of go around and you're like, all right, cool, I'm about to complete my my last quest and whatever, and all of a sudden the sky turns black and fire rains from the sky. It's like, oh shit, what's going on? The counter statement to that is that for lowly level toons, doing these objectives is really lucrative. You level pretty damn fast. You pretty much get a level, damn near a level, for completing all of the objective quests. But with all that aside, the relevance of completing the assault objectives is pretty much gone down to 0. I don't recall if it's required to complete them in order to unlock the class mount quest. Not sure, but even if it is, we're all going to get it eventually. We all do still, I believe, need to get to Exalted in order to. I'm sorry, we all need to get to Exalted with Legion Fall rep in order to unlock this quest for the class mount, so I think that's okay. In the end, it's not just a skin, it's not a huge mechanical change that will totally change the way that we experience the Broken Isles, and I'm not sad about it. I'm being patient. But I'm really curious. I want to kind of get your thoughts and feelings on this whole thing that's been happening. Do you think players have just gotten? Do you think players have just become really impatient? Do they just want to, you know, get things done and over with so they can move on to, I don't know what it is that they want to move on to? It just feels like there is a big criticism in part of like the current content delivery of Legion, and I'm going to do a video essay on this at some point with that goes over content delivery. But it feels like there is a growing sentiment among the vocal player base. I'm not sure if this is a majority or not. It just seems like there's just a growing concern that people do in fact want to have a lot of content just front loaded on them, as if this is a hypothetical. Like let's say we just had 3 more months of 7.15. You know, we just dealt with this. We had no new content for the next 3 months, and then in June we get 7.2. And everything just comes in all at once. You know, the second, you know, let's at least be a little reasonable. Like the second week of 7.2 will introduce the raid, but like day 1, you get assault objectives, you get the challenges, you got all the farming to do, the Sentinel stuff, the Nether shards, and so on and so forth. Would we prefer that, or do we want just kind of the slow drip of content that we have? I'd love to hear your guys' thoughts and see some discussion going on, and I'll jump in whenever I can. On a better note, the Sentinel and the Nether shard farming has, in my opinion, it has improved a lot from how it was last week. There's been so many modifications on how to farm for this stuff that, you know, I thought about, hey, maybe I'll do another guide. I'm like, no, I'm not going to do another guide because shit just changed again. F my life. But at least with how things are right now, I can at least safely and confidently say that Nether shard farming is lucrative enough to go for when it comes to either farming the legendary mat to just kind of turn that around and sell it for gold, or to start farming for relinquished tokens. So here's the really quick and dirty guide. Have a group of 5 people, farm every active rare that you see on the map, and then while you're waiting for another rare, drop by the Sentinel and just farm the crap out of it. That's really it, and that's the word. That's the news, guys. I'm done. Thanks for watching, folks. I know this was less news and more like responses to criticism, kind of like how it was last week, because, you know, continuing drama and salt and all that. Next week hopes to be as busy as this one was with content that I'll be putting out, and hopefully I'll have some good news about BlizzCon tickets. I was able to get 4 for myself and my crew, but I do need 4 more, so I'm really hoping that I get the rest that I need tomorrow. Once again, leave a comment below, tell me how your week was, say hi, let me know if you feel impatient or patient about this game still. One lucky person is going to be chosen, and they're going to get a WoW token. They're just going to come on over, I'm going to give them a ton of gold in order to at least get a WoW token, and ta-da. Just to let you know now, if you are chosen, I'm either going to direct message you over on YouTube, or I'm going to reply to your comment and tell you that you're the winner. So, as always, you can drop a line here on the channel, or on Twitter, or on Facebook, or hell on Instagram if you care to look at food and puppies. I stream at least every Tuesday and Thursday with whatever shenanigans my guild and I are up to, and at some point I'm going to do a random kind of morning show, just kind of a short thing where I'm just kind of popping on to, you know, say hi and talk and chat and chill. If you're interested in that, follow me on Twitch or subscribe to the channel here if not already. And I'm done, folks. I'm out of here for the weekend. You guys have a good one and stay breezy.